moment the sirens hit our bright green cul-de-sac, Karen burst out of her neon mint house, like an alarm in human form, tangerine pantsuit blazing hot pink HOA clipboard waving over her head. Officers ducked as her lime green SUV rolled halfway onto the lawn, glitter decals catching the sunlight. She jabbed a finger at my porch, shouting, "That box is a biological threat." The reporter turned to me, standing under my maple tree, perfectly calm. I held up my tablet, paused doorbell footage of Karen stealing a package again from my steps. "She says you attacked her," the officer muttered. "Oh," I said, smiling, "you haven't seen the inside of that box yet," and neither had she. I caught her before she even realized I'd opened the door. Karen stood on my porch, hunched over my Amazon box, shaking it like a maraca, while sniffing the cardboard, as if fragrance notes might reveal state secrets. The sunlight filtered through the thick green canopy overhead, glowing off her neon lime cardigan, bubblegum pink visor, and turquoise sandals, an outfit so loud it scared a bird out of my maple tree. My neighborhood was quiet, breezy, full of bright lawns and swaying branches. Her house, by contrast, blared across the street, mint walls, coral shutters, and pastel wind chimes, clanking like a toy orchestra in the warm air. She jerked upright when she saw me. "I was conducting a package safety inspection," she declared, sliding the box an inch toward her glittery tote bag. She acted like a self-appointed sheriff in a technicolor kingdom only she believed existed. And in her mind, controlling everyone's deliveries made her the guardian of community standards. "That's mine," I said. She froze, then forced a smile sharp enough to cut grass. "Well, some items violate wellness protocols," she sniffed. "I get work supplies delivered almost daily, so watching her hover over my box felt like someone reaching into my wallet." I lifted it from her hands. She backed off my porch slowly, neon outfit flashing between the trees. "I'll be monitoring this property," she warned. And the way she said it, I knew she meant it. The next morning, a bright, breezy day filtered sunlight through the oak canopy and cast moving leaf shadows across my porch, perfect timing for trouble. My package, a small controller, vanished before I even finished my coffee. At first, I assumed the carrier made a mistake. But when the second one disappeared, a pair of headphones, I started paying attention. By the time the third item, a novelty mug, never arrived, I installed a porch camera beneath the hanging fern. On day 4, the footage showed exactly what I expected, and somehow still made my jaw clench. There she was, Karen, neon lavender running suit blazing against the deep green hedge behind her, crouched beside my planter like a brightly colored goblin. She lifted the lid of a freshly delivered box, slid it into her glittery tote, then looked straight into the camera and waved friendly like she was borrowing a cup of sugar. The next day, a pink glitter gel note appeared on my door. "If you order things you don't need, maybe donate to those who do." It smelled like expired lavender. I kept the note. I also ordered something else. This time I prepared. The lush breeze moved through my yard as I built a reinforced decoy box on my porch table, sunlight gleaming off its fake shipping label. Inside waited Marvin, my cousin's emotional support skunk, lounging on a plush pillow like a tiny king. One call, one boiled egg, and he was happily ready for deterrent duty. I'd done plenty of DIY gadget tinkering over the years, so adding a light trigger latch wasn't hard. When the lid opened, Marvin would simply waddle toward the disturbance and do what Marvin does. At 1 p.m., right on schedule, Karen strutted up the walkway in a neon orange tracksuit and rhinestone sunglasses big enough to double as windshields. The neighborhood's trees swayed gently overhead. Everything felt peaceful except her. She didn't hesitate, just popped the lid like opening a birthday present. A blur of fur, a mechanical click, a shriek so sharp it cut through the branches. Marvin erupted like a furry geyser. Mist, chaos, justice. Karen stumbled backward across my flower-bed arms, flailing as she toppled into a patch of bright begonias. Marvin waddled back into the box, clocking out of his shift. I stepped onto the porch, coffee in hand. "Oh, hey, Karen. Package for you." She fled, leaving shimmering perfume and skunk vengeance in the air. The police came the next day. I showed the footage, explained nothing, except that she had opened the box voluntarily. The officer laughed and wrote it off as defensive deterrent. Marvin retired early, content and egg-fed. For 2 days, things calmed. The sunlight through the trees made the street look normal again. Then my mailbox exploded, figuratively, stuffed with a thick stack of papers. Founding charter of the Willow Glen Property Integrity Association. Her pastel logo decorated every page. Karen had created her own HOA. Signed by Interim Executive Chairwoman Karen Whitmore, it included bylaws, newsletters, wellness protocols, and of course a violation notice for me, intentional disruption of community harmony via animal-based entrapment. She didn't stop there. She put up signs on every corner, each one a different bright color. Welcome to Willow Glen, a community of standards. The signs clashed horribly with the soft greens of the neighborhood towering amid flower beds like misplaced carnival props. Then came a city inspection notice. Karen had filed a complaint accusing me of harboring illegal wildlife. She even attached still images of Marvin's launch, like they were evidence of chemical warfare. Fortunately, the inspector took one look at my clean porch, laughed, closed the case, and warned me she was crossing lines that could get her in trouble. I was already building my own spreadsheet of receipts. The following week, on a breezy afternoon with the leaves fluttering like green confetti, I came home to find a folding table sitting dead center on my lawn. On it, pamphlets, lemon, water, and cookies shaped like skunks with red X's over them. A giant pastel banner hung above Keep Willow Glen Clean, Say No to Vermin-Adjacent Neighbors. Karen stood beside the table in a blinding magenta blouse and teal capris, addressing a semicircle of confused kids. Some people think it's funny to use dangerous animals as weapons, she lectured. Karen, I said, why are you on my lawn? Community outreach, she chirped. Your yard is the most visible, and your grass was so available. I posted a photo of her outreach booth in the neighborhood chat. Responses flooded in wind chime warnings. She'd issued Halloween ban attempts, a claim that someone's hedges were emotionally unsettling. That afternoon, I got a call from a regional HOA official. Karen had attempted to register her fake HOA using falsified maps and claiming I was her vice president. The official was not amused. A review had begun. Karen fought back with maximum chaos. She hosted a backyard town hall, dragging rainbow folding chairs across her lawn beneath a canopy labeled Willow Glen United in shiny foil letters. Only 6 people came, one of them her dog. I arrived 5 minutes late carrying a USB drive and a portable projector. Without a word, I plugged into her power strip and cast a video montage across her bright mint garage, her stealing packages, her booth on my lawn, her glitter notes, her fake forms. Neighbors gasped. One applauded. Karen screeched, "This is illegal broadcasting. It's called freedom of information," I said. Her mic died when my projector overloaded her sparkly extension cord. The audience drifted away. Her authority cracked like cheap plastic. That night, 3 eggs hit my porch, one on the doormat, one on the doorbell, one right on the camera lens. Quiet, precise, personal, fine. If she wanted round 2, I was ready. I built Karen Trap 2. 0, a chemical cocktail of stink sealed inside a return-labeled box, addressed with her own fake HOA stationery. The next day in sunshine, filtering through the bright green branches, she strutted up in a neon yellow tracksuit, scooped the box, and left with the confidence of someone immune to consequences. 20 minutes later, a scream shattered the cul-de-sac. She burst from her garage, drenched in a smell so vile the breeze seemed to retreat. 2 patrol cars arrived. I showed the footage. Again. They left. Again. Karen stayed in the street, trembling neon outfit stained with disaster. And that was the moment the neighborhood shifted, because from here on, it wasn't just between her and me anymore. Karen didn't wait for the neighborhood to calm. By sunrise, she'd transformed her front yard, normally framed by soft green trees and morning dew, into a chaotic outdoor courtroom. Rainbow folding chairs lined her bright mint lawn, her neon pink podium sat crookedly beneath a pastel canopy, and a giant banner blared, Willow Glen Community Ethics Tribunal. I showed up with a folding chair and a cup of coffee. The neighbors drifted in behind me, eyes squinting beneath the warm sunlight filtering through the oaks. Karen emerged in a blinding chartreuse blazer, clutching a stack of papers, like she was about to prosecute the moon. "This hearing will now come to order," she barked, voice echoing across the neat row of hedges. She pointed at me, dramatically. "You stand accused of destabilizing our community." I raised my hand. "Point of procedure." Her eye twitched. "What procedure?" I'd like to call my first witness. I glanced toward the trees. Marvin. The name alone detonated something inside her. Karen's clipboard slipped. Her voice shot up an octave. "Absolutely not. This is an insult, a farce." She lunged at my chair, missed, and collided with her lemonade table. Sticky neon yellow water cascaded across her paperwork, soaking her self-made legal documents into a soggy rainbow pulp. The crowd exhaled, then laughter broke like a wave. Her courtroom collapsed before the trial even started. That afternoon, under the long shade of the maples, Tom texted me, "Library, we're ready." When I arrived, 3 neighbors sat around a small table with zoning maps, copies of county records, and a binder thick enough to stun an ox. "Willow Glen can't legally be governed by any HOA," one of the teachers said, tapping a highlighted paragraph. "Zoning from 1983 never permitted it." The former civil engineer slid over a second sheet. "These signatures," she submitted, "2 are from people who moved away. 1 is from someone who passed last year. She didn't just pretend, she forged. I sent everything to my lawyer friend. His reply was immediate. This is fraud, and we're going public." 2 days later, during a real community cleanup event, we set up a folding table under the leafy shade and pinned a poster board across it. Fake signatures, mismatched zoning codes, screenshots of her emails, and photocopies of her donation requests. Neighbors gathered. Karen marched over in a bright turquoise pantsuit, mouth set tight. "You can't present unauthorized materials." My lawyer stepped forward, megaphone in hand. "Cease and desist, Miss Whitmore, for fraudulent representation of governance authority." A hush fell, broken only by the chime of her pastel wind ornaments behind us. Then the lawyer read the entire letter aloud. Every fake permit, every falsified claim, every misuse of resident information. The crowd didn't gasp. They simply understood all at once what she'd been doing. And Karen, for the first time, had no words. She tried one last gambit. A thick cream-colored envelope slid under my door later that night. Inside was a 4-page civil suit demanding damages for emotional distress and laundering of community morale. My lawyer filed a counterclaim before breakfast, attaching everything: footage, witness statements, forged documents. The next morning, a blazing green and gold news van rolled into our cul-de-sac. Karen had called a fringe station, desperate to spin the story. She set up a podium on her lawn again, flanked by her lime green SUV and a hot pink HOA banner flapping against the quiet greenery. "This neighborhood has been under attack," she shouted as cameras rolled. I stepped onto my porch and tapped my Bluetooth speaker. The audio of her skunk scream played loud and clear across the trees. Neighbors turned. The reporter turned. Karen froze microphone halfway to her mouth. Then came the final strike. A Navy sedan pulled up, much quieter than the news van. A man in a blazer stepped out, flipping open a badge. "Miss Whitmore, State Attorney General's office." Her knees actually bent like the color drained out of her neon outfit. "We're here regarding falsified documents and unlawful solicitation of fees." Her microphone slipped from her hand, thudding onto the bright grass. The breeze carried the sound through the trees, soft and decisive. The legal HOA she invented ended with someone real knocking on her door. And that was the moment everyone on our bright leafy street understood her reign wasn't just broken. It was over. The same afternoon, the AG investigator walked up to Karen's porch. The neighborhood gathered exactly where we'd planned, along the sunlit stretch of sidewalk that connected our houses beneath the leafy green canopy of the oaks. It wasn't a celebration at first. Just people drifting in with folding chairs, coolers, and paper plates, the kind of casual gathering that felt like breathing again after holding our lungs tight for too long. Tom fired up the grill smoke drifting upward through branches, glowing gold in the late light. Kids ran along the grass, darting between tree shadows, while neighbors set out trays of food on bright picnic cloths. My table ended up beside the curb, shaded by my maple tree. Someone placed a stack of HOA free since today stickers on it, like souvenirs from a strange victory. A few people nudged my shoulder as they passed. "You handled her well. Finally, some peace." Didn't think the skunk would be topped, but that letter, wow. No speeches, no formal announcements, just quiet relief weaving through warm air scented with grilled corn and sun-warmed grass. Every glance toward Karen's yard, her mint facade, coral shutters, pastel, wind chimes felt different now. Not threatening, just empty of influence. Tom approached with a plate and nodded subtly toward the street. A pair of officials stood near the sidewalk finishing paperwork the investigator brought earlier, their navy blazers stark against the bright green background. They weren't dramatic, weren't intrusive. They simply did the job: photographs of her fake signs, official statements from 2 neighbors, documentation of the cease and desist. One of them handed me a brief update. The civil suit she filed was already dead, tossed out for lack of standing. The fraud investigation had escalated after the forged signatures, and the donation link she used for her bogus HOA frozen pending inquiry. The AG rep assured us gently, "Your block is safe from her governance. Permanently." By the time the officials stepped away, the tension that had lived in our cul-de-sac for weeks felt like it was finally dissolving into the air. Conversations lightened. Someone turned on a small Bluetooth speaker playing soft guitar. The green of the lawns looked brighter, the tree canopy overhead warmer, as if the whole street had exhaled. That was when people naturally drifted toward the old community shed at the end of the block, the place Karen kept trying to turn into an enforcement office. It sat under tall sycamores, tucked behind a cluster of flowering shrubs. Nothing fancy, just a small wooden structure with peeling paint and a roof that needed replacing. But in the glow of the afternoon, surrounded by neighbors who could finally stand in the same place without bracing for her voice, it looked like a chance to rebuild something better. Jenkins placed a small terracotta pot on the step marigolds and announced she was starting the Willow Glen Community Garden. Others chimed in, offering tomato seeds, tools, a watering schedule. Someone carried over a gold-painted gnome statue as a joke, its tiny crown reflecting sunlight in sharp flashes. Someone else added a little scroll to the gnome's hand. "Stay petty, my friends." A ripple of laughter passed through the group, warm but not cruel. We didn't replace her rules with new ones. We didn't form a council or a committee. We just created a spot, green-shaded quiet, where people who lived here could plant something if they wanted. No dues, no inspections, no neon notices taped to doors. Just a space that could grow the way our neighborhood finally could again. As the evening settled, the barbecue blended into an easy rhythm. Fireflies blinked in the grass. The golden light bent across the street at an angle that made the mint color of Karen's house look less jarring and more like a leftover from a dream someone else had. Through her window, the pastel curtains didn't move. No signs, no flyers, no proclamation banners. We didn't talk about her out loud. We didn't need to. The investigator's visit had ended it. Permanently. The loudest house on the block was finally quiet. I stayed near the edge of the barbecue, leaning against my porch railing. From that spot, I could see my entire front yard, the trimmed grass, the flower beds, the leafy branches overhead. For the first time in weeks, the place felt like mine again. My porch camera hummed quietly beside me. Its little indicator light reflected faintly in the framed copy of her nonsense legal notice I'd brought out earlier for a laugh. I set the frame on my porch table. Not as a trophy, just as a reminder of how absurd things had been and how far we'd come back from it. Neighbors began heading home as the streetlights flickered on one by one. The sidewalk stayed warm beneath my feet, the air soft and green-scented. A few last good nights drifted through the dusk. When I finally stepped inside, I glanced at my porch out of habit. A single box sat on the mat, addressed correctly, untouched. And I smiled because in this neighborhood we'd all learned the same lesson. Some packages aren't meant to be opened, especially when they never belonged to you in the first place.